You know, the ideas of this one man are pretty much the bedrock of modern physics. Everything from thermodynamics to how we understand the cosmos. He imagined the atomic world that we now just take for granted. But this isn't a story of triumph, not at all. It's the story of a brilliant mind that was broken by the very scientific community he was trying to enlighten. A physicist who, tragically, never lived to see his own vindication. It's a shocking question, right? And he gets right to the very heart of this story. How on earth does the search for objective truth lead to such a deeply personal and tragic end? Well, the answer isn't just about a simple scientific disagreement. It reveals a brutal conflict between two totally different ways of seeing reality itself. Just let the weight of that sink in for a minute. This wasn't just a friendly debate. We're talking about a vicious, relentless onslaught from the top minds in science. And the timing, oh man, the timing is the most devastating part of it all. He was right on the very edge of being proven completely, unequivocally right. So what was this dangerous, revolutionary idea that stirred up so much trouble? It all kicked off with a really simple but incredibly profound vision of the world around us. The key word here, the word that caused all the problems, is real. For Boltzmann, atoms weren't just some convenient concept you use in an equation. No, he was making a radical claim that things we experience like temperature and pressure, they aren't fundamental properties at all. They're actually just the result of a huge, chaotic, statistical dance of billions of actual, physical atoms. So in essence, he was telling his colleagues that the familiar, stable world we all see and touch is, in a way, just an illusion, a surface layer. He argued that the real action, the engine driving everything, was happening down at a microscopic level that they couldn't see and, at the time, had no way of proving actually existed. And you can probably guess that this vision led straight to conflict. Because what seems completely obvious to us now, that the world is made of atoms, was considered scientific heresy by the most powerful and influential minds of his day. This really was the Great Divide. In one corner, you have Boltzmann absolutely insisting that atoms were as real as the chair you're sitting on. And in the other corner, you have the establishment, basically saying, look, if we can't see an atom, then treating it as real isn't science, it's philosophy. To them, atoms were just a useful fiction, a handy tool for their calculations, and nothing more. And this opposition wasn't just some vague feeling in the community. It had a leader. Ernst Mach, a brilliant and highly respected physicist, led the charge against Boltzmann. He and his followers didn't just disagree with him, they actively worked to discredit him, calling his entire life's work nothing more than unscientific speculation. Now, this constant, high-stakes battle, it wasn't just an academic debate. It started to take a truly devastating toll on Boltzmann the man. The fight for his ideas slowly became a fight for his own sanity. I mean, just try to imagine the pressure. Every single conference, every paper he published was a battle. He became more and more isolated professionally, with very few people in his corner. All of this just fueled his pre-existing depression, creating this horrible downward spiral, where he became utterly convinced that everything he had dedicated his entire life to was a failure that would be forgotten. In his own words, you can just feel the despair, can't you? That isn't the voice of a confident pioneer who's sure he's right. It's the voice of a man who feels totally alone, a man who believes that the entire scientific community and history itself was just passing him by. But that is not where this story ends. Because while Boltzmann himself was lost, his ideas were about to be proven right in the most dramatic way you can imagine. This is the story of his ultimate and deeply tragic vindication. This timeline, it's just heartbreaking. Seriously, look at this. In 1905, a young Albert Einstein publishes a paper explaining the random jiggling of pollen in water, what we call Brownian motion, and he explains it as direct evidence of unseen, real atoms bumping into it. The theoretical proof was finally there. But Boltzmann, so lost in his depression and isolation, either didn't see its importance or just felt it was too little, too late. He ended his life in 1906, just 2 years before Perrin's experiments would come along and confirm everything beyond any shadow of a doubt. He was literally standing on the cusp of total victory. And after his death, the verdict came swiftly. The debate was over. The atomic theory wasn't just some philosophical idea. It was the bedrock of reality. The entire world of physics shifted to build upon the very foundation that he had been so relentlessly attacked for creating. And his whole vision really is captured perfectly in this one elegant equation. On the left, you've got S, which stands for entropy. That's a property of the big-scale world we can actually see and measure, like ice melting into water. It's a measure of disorder. And on the right, you have W, which represents the number of ways all those unseen atoms can arrange themselves to create that exact state. This equation is the bridge connecting the microscopic world he imagined to the macroscopic world his critics demanded to see. And in a final, poetic act of justice, the very equation that summed up his supposedly fictional and unscientific worldview is now carved for eternity on his tombstone. It's a permanent monument to the man who saw reality so much more clearly than his peers, even when it cost him absolutely everything. Boltzmann's story is just a powerful and, frankly, a stark reminder that scientific truth isn't always obvious. It often has to be fought for, tooth and nail. So it leaves us with a pretty important question, doesn't it? What are the revolutionary ideas being dismissed as fiction today, just waiting for their own moment of vindication?